Hi, I'm Crow Clover. You can call me Crow. I'm a top 500 Tracer main, almost a one-trick, and have around 800 hours on Tracer alone. Today I'm going to share my knowledge on Tracer, and you will all hopefully close this video with a better grasp of my main. I'm no coach, but I'm very familiar with Tracer's kit, and these are all things that I've discovered while climbing to my rank, either on my own or through the popular Overwatch coaches such as Spylo and Kajor. In this video, I'll be going over Tracer's abilities, goals, matchups, and general rules that you should be following when you're playing her. So without further ado, let's get into it. Tracer has 2 cooldowns, but also 4 depending on how you look at it. The first is Blink, which is a short 7-meter dash. It defaults forward, but by pressing a movement key, you can change the direction you go. You can also press 2 movement keys to go diagonally, therefore you can blink in 8 directions. Blinks will not go through walls, but they will take you past objects you can get roughly half your body over. This means that you do actually have a little vertical mobility and can scale certain walls with enough practice. They will also take you through enemies. You have 2 hitboxes when blinking, one where you were and one where you will be. You do not become completely intangible. This is important because it means blinking straight at someone or blinking too late just won't save you. Each blink has a 3-second cooldown, and you have 3 of them. Tracer also has Recall, which will send the user 3 seconds into the past. It fully reloads your guns and sets your health in position to where you were 3 seconds ago, with only one rule. You can't lose health with Recall. That means that if you take a health pack, take damage, wait a second, and then recall, your health will remain the same. But if you take a health pack, take damage, wait 3 seconds, and then recall, you'll get the health from the health pack back. Recall is on a 13-second cooldown. Tracer's guns are called pulse pistols, and they shoot at the same time. Each shoots 20 bullets per second, and you have a mag size of 40 bullets. Each bullet does 5.5 damage. That means that you have a max damage number of 220 per clip, 440 for all headshots. Tracer's guns are spread and tracking weapons, meaning that you aim them by keeping your crosshair on the target for a set amount of time. In Tracer's case, that's 1 second. The spread on her weapon makes her a close-range hero, but not too close, as you're still doing good damage up to around 15 meters away. Ideally, you'll play within 11 or so to do max damage and be able to combo blink and melee for easier damage. Pulse Bomb is Tracer's ultimate. It's a very short-ranged, sticky bomb with a slow projectile speed. It does 355 damage. It's not very consistent, with pro Overwatch League Tracers only averaging around a 60% stick rate. It's also very fast charging, so you should generally use it as soon as you get it. There are no real big plays with Pulse unless another ult like Grav is involved, so don't try to wait for perfect moments to use it. The more you throw it, the more you'll get. You should usually combine Pulse with Blink in order to close the gap between you and your opponent and stick them. The further you throw it from, the less accurate it'll be, as the projectile speed is even slower than Junkrat's primary fire. 5 of the damage from Pulse Bomb is from the stick itself, so remember not to stick targets that are asleep if they have abilities to defend against Pulse, or you'll wake them up and they won't die. The easiest way to stick Pulse is to come from the side against an unsuspecting enemy. Because they don't know you're there, they'll be moving predictably. If you don't stick it, don't sweat it. It's inconsistent by nature, and the best way to get better at it is to do it more. Now for mechanics, both aim and movement. I'm no aim theorist, but I'd say the most tricky part with aim is finding your right sensitivity. Tracer needs to aim and turn quickly, and you're gonna have to learn how to track very well. If you don't have very good mouse control, I'd recommend using something around 4 sensitivity with 800 DPI. That's what I used for most of my PC hours, and it got me to GM. After playing for a long time with this though, I realized that my turning being slow was hindering my ability to react to things. On top of that, my close range tracking wasn't as good as it needed to be. Now I'm at 3.5 sensitivity, but at 1600 DPI. Before I had been playing with and against top 500s consistently, I didn't really have the mouse control to have a high sensitivity. Once I had that mouse control, I found that a higher sensitivity worked better for me. As a general rule, I'd start at maybe 10 sensitivity with 800 DPI and lower it until it feels just right for you. The worse your mouse control, the lower you should go. As you become more skilled, just raise it over time. For the actual aiming part, it's much more simple. The faster your reaction times, the faster you can react to changes in enemy movement and adjust your aim. But there are also tactics to make aiming much easier than that in certain situations. Overwatch players are generally good at moving unpredictably in a straightforward 1v1. But if they don't know someone is there, they're not going to be strafing or doing anything crazy, so you only have to track in a straight line against someone that doesn't know you're there. It's also useful to know where the enemy wants to go. Do they want to regroup with their team, or maybe get that health pack 3 meters away? If the enemy wants to do something, they'll move predictably while trying to do it. If you get someone low near a health pack, chances are they're going to stop strafing and move directly to the health pack, giving you easy shots. Don't just try to follow the enemy's movement, try to get in their head and anticipate what they're going to do next. Anything that gives you easier shots is useful. Before we get into movement, let's talk about hitboxes, just for a little bit. Tracer's head hitbox is a whopping 40% bigger than Sombra's. That's right, you're not as small as you think you are. You also have absolutely no gap between your legs at all, which means that anyone competent will generally be aiming there unless going for a high damage headshot. This means that you want to move differently against different weapons. Against tracking weapons like pulse pistols, never crouch, ever. Those tracking weapons will do more damage when aimed at your legs, and anyone competent will generally just be shooting there. That means that crouching will just end up in you getting headshot and still not avoiding any shots. Against tracking, you want to do medium speed strafes, not super fast, or the enemy can just hold their crosshair in the middle and watch you strafe into it. Against precision hit scan, you want to strafe fast and weave in crouches occasionally. Don't spam crouch though, or they'll aim at your center and headshot you easily. Against projectiles, you want to strafe slowly. Remember that Tracer moves 10% faster than everyone but Genji. This is important because it means your strafes must be slower than other heroes. Medium strafes on another hero are fast on Tracer. If you strafe like you're playing another hero, you are moving too fast. With your movement patterns, all you really need to do is be unpredictable. Personally, I tend to strafe along to the beat of a song, different songs for different speeds. But you don't have to do this, of course. Whatever works for you is best. Tracer's general goal is to be a pest for the enemy team. She's like a mosquito that is ridiculously hard to swat, with the little added trait of being able to brutally murder you if you decide to stop trying to swat it. You cannot ignore a Tracer in your backline unless you want her to kill your backline. That's where her power lies. You can force people's cooldowns and attention away from your team just by existing at very little risk to yourself. You should set up generally in the enemy team's backline and attack whenever an opportunity presents itself, or attack early to create opportunities for your teammates. Tracer's general sign to engage is when the enemy team isn't paying attention to her and her own team is close enough to push in. If an important cooldown that you'd have to play around is used, that's an especially good time to push. For example, if you see an Ana use sleep, you should try to go in before she has it back again. Now, let's get into some rules to follow. The more lethal you want to be, the later you have to go in. If you go in early, your kill potential is very little. Tracer can't kill through healing at all, with the exception of Pulse, and if you have Pulse, it's much easier to stick when enemies are unaware of you, so you still want to go in after the enemy team is distracted by yours. Never allow multiple people to look at you at once. While Tracer can no longer be one-shot by a lot of things because of the Season 9 patch, if two things hit you at once, you're probably going to die. Try to play around cover in a way that only the person you're shooting can shoot you back. Always give yourself an out. Never use up all blinks and recall to force a kill. Even if you get the kill, you might die after. That gets me into my next point. Try not to die. Tracer is a setup hero and can't get nearly as much value when she doesn't have time before fights to position properly. Avoid making plays dependent on extreme mechanical skill. Well, yes, Tracer can one-clip someone or perfectly 180 stick to kill at a disadvantage. You should never be putting yourself in situations where this is the only option. If a one-clip or a stick is the only way to survive, you probably shouldn't have taken that engagement in the first place. Don't chase people unless you know that they can die. Chasing is the most common way Tracer players die because it wastes your cooldowns and puts you at a disadvantage. Scout. Getting blindsided on Tracer is a lethal mistake. If someone pops up out of nowhere and you can't leave the fight, you are dead. So instead of allowing yourself to be taken by surprise, make sure you know roughly the positions of the entire enemy team before engaging. This comes with practice. Alright, now let's get into exceptions to rules. This section's a lot less about Tracer and a lot more about the general state of Overwatch 2 at the moment. The exceptions to Tracer's rules are almost entirely related to climbing out of meta ranks, and to an extent Masters as well. Overwatch is a team game, and to make sure you have a positive win rate in a team game, sometimes you have to carry. Tracer can't do that. Her kill potential is only there as follow-up or the enemy team messing up. That is, in an optimal game. By foregoing caution, you can net your team more kills and carry fights. To do this, you can ignore any rule you want, but the number of rules you're able to break without dying depends on how far above you are in skill compared to the rest of the lobby. For a player like myself, in Bronze to Plat, I can comfortably break all the rules in hard carry games. In Diamond, I can break all but cover usage and sometimes timing. Masters is the same as Diamond for the most part, but I'm not able to break the rules as frequently. Wherever you are, try to figure out what you can get away with. The closer you are to your skill level, the less rules you can break. If you're of Diamond skill and are in Plat, you won't be able to break as many rules. You also won't be able to break them as often. There's no hard rule for this, which is why it's hard to tell people what they can get away with. This is just something you'll get a sense for as you play. Unfortunately, the only way to climb quickly as Tracer, and many other heroes as well, is to play them incorrectly. Hyper-aggressive plays are your friend while climbing. Try breaking the rules I mentioned on occasion. If it works, do it more often. If it doesn't, you're likely playing at your deserved rank and will need to improve more to climb. Now for synergies. A lot of people will refer to Tracer as a dive hero. While not technically wrong, this is also not correct either. Tracer has the mobility to jump on people and act as a team, yes, but Tracer also has less damage and more survivability than typical flankers. You don't need a team centered around you to do anything. Part of the reason Tracer is so strong is because she can work with pretty much anyone, hence why in pro play, Tracer is classified as both a hit scan and a flex DPS. She pairs with everyone. That being said, here are my personal favorite comps for Tracer. For tanks, I have no bad matchups. Everyone works. My favorite tank to play with would probably be Ball though, as Ball can easily keep up with and engage with me. For DPS, I love playing with Dive and Poke. Sombra, Genji, Echo, Ashe, Widow, Soldier, Kree, and Pharah. Dive DPS are good at focusing down targets with me and forcing kills that I can't get on my own. Poke DPS and Tracer help each other out in different ways. Tracer is the best anti-flank hero in the game. Tracer can guard her Poke DPS from being dove, while the Poke DPS can zone the enemy team into areas where Tracer can pick them off with ease. Different things are more valuable at different times. I would rather play with Poke into Rush, but much rather dive into Poke. Synergies aside, Tracer is a very versatile hero, so naturally there are many ways to play her. Tracer can assassinate or solo kill isolated targets. She can of course dive. She can peel or defend her weaker teammates. She can mark or keep someone on the enemy team from being useful. She can distract and draw cooldowns. She can zone or force people out of certain areas. What you can do with Tracer is basically limited to what the enemy team allows you to do. Against a tightly packed comp, you can't assassinate, and diving is more risky as well, so you'd rather do something else. The question with Tracer is usually not what can I do, it's what can't I do. Know the options you have and figure out what is the best for your situation. If you mess up, that's fine, just keep doing it and you'll subconsciously develop an understanding for the right plays. Tracer can be required to switch playstyles repeatedly over the course of a game. In fact, she usually is. This is why it's smarter to not commit to any one play mentally. Leave your options open even when moving into position to do something. Try to position in a way that you can do multiple things. While Tracer may be considered a flanker, fully flanking is often not the best play. You generally want to be able to get behind their team and regroup with your own if possible. Unfortunately for you guys, I am way too lazy to find and edit gameplay of me facing each of these heroes as I talk, so you're gonna have to use your imagination a little. This section is general advice versus each hero. Tracer is the best duelist in the game. Not only do you have the survivability to sustain in fights, you have the damage to win them. Don't be afraid to take 1v1s because you have an advantage. When blinking in fights, blink in a way that the enemy has to move their camera a decent distance to aim at you again. Don't just dodge, reposition. Blink to cover if possible, and make sure that your blink isn't taking you anywhere dangerous. When recalling, try to do it around breakpoints. There's never a need to recall if the next shot can't kill you. Also, remember where you're recalling. The last thing you want is to recall into a Junkrat trap. He'll kill you in the most embarrassing way possible and call you a dipstick after if you're not careful. Now, let's start with tanks. For D.Va, Matrix has around a 1 second cooldown between uses. You're going to want to shoot and pulse in that window if she's nearby so you can damage the enemy team. If sticking D.Va, always do it from behind. Now for Doom, just don't get stunned. He'll one-shot you. Also, Pulse does nothing through his block and will just charge him unless you stick him less than a second before his block ends. It's a free stick if you do it right, but also throwing if you don't. For Junker Queen, don't underestimate her shotgun. 2 shots at a decent range and you're dead, only 1 up close. With Maga, Cardiac Overdrive will allow Squishies to tank Pulse Bomb. Don't stick during it, just don't. Don't let him land on you with his charge because you could die before you react. For Orisa, just avoid Javelin. It's a short cooldown and every usage could end in you instantly dying. Know when she has it and be ready to dodge. Javelin Spin also eats Pulse Bomb, so be careful of that. For Ramatra, he doesn't generally interact with you at all. You can't reliably kill him, and he can't reliably kill you. Don't underestimate the slowing power of his Vortex. It will kill your strafing. Just blink out of it and you'll be fine. If he's already used Nemesis form, you could also pulse his Omnic form to do a good deal of damage. For Rhine, he's never really a threat to you. Use Blinks to dance out of his range. He can't chase you, as he'll leave himself exposed and waste a lot of time. Just generally ignore him and he'll ignore you. Watch out for surprise pins, though. For Hog, don't get hooked. Watch out for him when he's going for you. You can react to hook if you see it coming, so just don't get caught off guard. Shooting him is generally a waste of time, so ignore him as well. With Sigma, he has no armor, so you can actually do pretty good damage to him. It's better to target his supports, though, and make sure you avoid his rock. He can one-shot combo you with it. With Winston, he's fairly annoying. You used to be able to peel him off your team with a clip or two, but after the armor change, that's no longer possible. Generally, you only want to engage if he has no armor, in which case you can just chase him down and kill him. With Ball, chase him down. Normally you don't want to go for tanks, but Ball is so dependent on uptime and running away from danger that chasing him down and forcing him to take health packs is more valuable than anything else. Against Zarya, bubbles cleanse pulse. Do not pulse anyone unless Zarya isn't around or has used both bubbles. Aside from that, high charge Zarya can melt you, so be careful around her. You can tell she's high charge when she starts to glow. Now, moving on to DPS, starting with Ashe. She no longer one-shots Tracer, so you do have a bit more leeway than pre-Season 9. However, good Ashe players can combo you with a headshot and a body shot, scoping and then unscoping quickly. Be wary of Dynamite after recalling, as it will probably kill you unless you get a health pack. Against Ashe, aim specifically for the head. Her hitbox is bigger there, plus the double damage from headshots, so you can melt Ashe very quickly. For Bastion, Bastion also has a massive hitbox. He's pretty much a tank. Whenever Bastion is trying to fight you, you do drastically more damage to him than he can do to you. Avoid Bastion if he's actively being healed, but take the free kill if he's not. Watch out for his grenade, as it can easily catch you off guard, and it does a lot of damage. For Cassidy, ever since Flashbang was added back to the game, the counterplay to him has been relatively simple. Blink whenever he looks at you, and laser his massive hitbox. Be careful of sneaky players waiting around corners to get a free kill on you, and just avoid his Flashbang at all costs. Echo also has a massive hitbox. When she is in the air, she's out of your fall-off range and can't consistently hit you, so you can ignore her. When she's on the ground, you can kill her relatively easily. Don't get too close to Echo though, because she can 2-tap you with her primary. Be very careful with your recall, as competent Echo players can sticky you the frame you reappear and kill you. For Genji, Deflect can kill you really fast because of how much damage you do. Just watch for when he uses it and never shoot it. Try to kite his damage. The general rule with fighting Genji is that up close he wins, but far away you do. Use your blinks to keep your distance and laser him from a distance where his projectiles can't easily hit you at. With Hanzo, just blink whenever he looks at you and shoot him. There's no trick to this 1v1. Whoever aims better just wins. With Junkrat, do not fight him in enclosed spaces. You will die. Be wary of trap and don't let him trap your recall. If possible, try to recall around a corner specifically to prevent it. For Mei, she can no longer one-shot you, but a headshot from her will leave you at 5 HP. Try to fight at a distance to avoid her freeze gun. If Mei ice blocks when you have Pulse Bomb, counting to 4 and sticking the block will kill her. With Pharah, ever since her rework, she consistently flies low to the ground, low enough for you to kill her, so do not be afraid to pressure her. With Reaper, run away. You won't get the 1v1. If you get too close, he'll one-shot you. If you play at your max effective range, he has more health than you and is still doing more damage than you are. Focus on his teammates. With Sojourn, it's a mechanical 1v1. Aim and move well, and you'll win. If she does it better, you'll lose. Against Soldier, try to predict Helix rockets and dodge them, otherwise he'll use them to force your recall. Unless the Soldier is really low, leave when he pulls out his healing bad, because Tracer is very bad at killing through healing. Against Sombra, Sombra can catch you off guard and delete you, but if you see her going for a teammate, you can chase her down. Sombra can't really engage around Tracer because of this. Stay near your vulnerable teammates and play for the peel rather than aggression. Be careful with hard engages, as she might hack you. With Sim, just don't fight her when her turrets are also shooting you. Otherwise, this is a 1v1 you easily win. Against Torb, avoid his turret. Don't engage it if it has line of sight on you. Against Torb himself, know when to leave. Unless you're better than him, he will out-sustain you. If you overstay your welcome, you'll end up dead. Now, against Tracer. This will be significantly longer, as Tracer 1v1s are one of the hardest things you'll ever have to do. Tracer duels are essentially ridiculously slow battles of attrition or ridiculously fast one-clips. Against Tracer, you want to have a positional advantage. Always run away from the enemy Tracer if you don't have an advantage or at least a neutral fight. You should not be looking to fight the enemy Tracer, as Tracer duels done correctly basically take forever if both Tracers are good. It takes way too long. If you are in a fight though, you generally want to blink after the enemy Tracer does, not before. This means that their enemy has to readjust their camera twice when you only have to once. It'll help your aim compared to theirs. Weave in melees when possible, as Tracer's health pool is low enough for this to be impactful damage. Don't hold on to your cooldowns forever, but never be more aggressive with them than the enemy Tracer. As for when to Tracer duel, as I said before, you usually do not want to Tracer duel. It usually takes too long if both sides are competent. But here's when it's a good idea. When the enemy Tracer has a much easier time against your backline than you do against hers, you're going to want to keep her off of your backline. Basically, the bigger the gap in value each Tracer can bring flanking, the more reason for the less valuable Tracer to start a duel. You should also try to duel Tracer if you know the enemy Tracer is waiting for you to engage so she can flank you. Don't let her try to force your recall with a sudden 2v1. Against Venture, just avoid her. She wins the 1v1 and it isn't close. If she's trying to fight you, just get out of range. Against Widow, don't peek her from far away. Use blinks to go cover to cover. Get close as possible and go for the one clip. Never blink directly at a Widow that has enough charge to kill you. Now for supports. Against Ana, don't get slept. If Ana is looking at you and has sleep up, you need to blink immediately. Try to take this fight at a bit more of a distance so she can't damage you as she heals up with nade. Against Bap, don't engage looking for a kill. You're not going to get it. Remember that Pulse is less valuable than Lamp in most cases, so it can actually be worth it to stick near him when he has it. Against Brig, attack her before even trying to go for the Juno or the Ana she's guarding. Take the fight at a distance and be wary of whip shot. Against Iari, if Pylon is up, just don't engage. It can be a good idea to actually hunt down the Pylon early for your team. Against Juno, don't chase her too far, but if the Juno has no cooldown, she is a free kill for you. Against Kiriko, you shouldn't really bother crouching because of how big the kunai are. They can hit your head even if you're crouching if she aims at the right spot. Don't stick near her and play to force her TP rather than killing her. Against Lifeweaver, you're probably not going to kill him, but you can make him focus his effort on someone else. He's a single target healer, so make him heal the other support while your team focuses on someone else. Against Lucio, it's better to have some distance, but you will usually win this 1v1. Remember not to chase him too far. Against Mercy, just avoid her in the DPS she's pocketing and go for the other support. Mercy will be forced to pocket them or allow them to fend for themselves in a 1v1 that they will probably lose. Against Moira, don't strafe against her because she won't miss you, and just focus on your own aim. More than likely, you're not going to kill her, and don't pulse if she has Fade Up. Against Zen, don't engage from a long sightline. If you need more than one blink to get to him, a good Zen will win that 1v1. And I suppose this concludes the video. Well, not strictly a guide, I hope that this video taught you guys at least one new thing. If it did, consider leaving a like and subscribing. If it didn't, bash me in the comments. Or don't, actually. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next low effort montage I make when I'm bored.